Hello everyone, my name is Pedro and I am part of Aztlan Youth Brigade as a member. And I'm here interviewing Patricia Cruz.
I'm Patricia Cruz, and I am an artist, and I'm part of the Chicano Park Steering Committee, and I'm also one of the many muralists at the park.
Well, I just wanted to say it's an honor that I get to interview you. So, I wanted to get into my first question. I'm sure it's a question you get a lot, but what does Chicano Park mean to you?
Chicano Park is, to me, it's a beautiful reflection of the Chicano movement and more. I think that the park is what we call our land that we've been able to recover, you know? It represents so many things. I think that the murals that tell the stories and the ceremonies that happen at the park and the vibration that the park has set since the takeover have really allowed us to have a beautiful movement and a beautiful space to be in a tangible space, which is something that not everyone has in their own city.
And for my next question for you, since you've been a part of the Chicano movement for so long, I just wanted to ask you, how does it feel to inspire so many people, especially me, since I am an aspiring artist? But I just wanted you to answer me, because there's a lot of people I've been talking to lately, and they've been inspired by your art since I've been trying to get them into Mecha at my school, and I've introduced them to you as a muralist. So I just wanted your answer on that.
Well, I think that I don't really look at it as inspiring anyone. I think that it's our duty to contribute in whatever way we can. When I read for the first time Message to Aztlan by Corky Gonzalez, there's a part in his book, in one of his speeches, where he says that, you know, we should all be contributing. And when I read that he said that there's no revolution without artists and poets, I really took that to heart, and that really resonated, because I think, like, if I'm an artist and that's all that I have to be, and I can contribute with my artwork, I think that's huge. And so for me, when I think about others being inspired, I think it's a beautiful thing. But I hope that everyone is going to contribute in some way, and I hope that everyone is going to celebrate being Chicano or Chicana. When I was a young child and I started to paint at the age of 14, you know, that what really inspired me was seeing people's reactions to my paintings. When I was painting brown faces and I was painting, like, you know, the family portrait of my parents and myself, my brother and my sister, and when I saw the reaction of people seeing brown skin on a canvas, you know, I'm not the only one that does that kind of artwork, but when you see that and you get feedback from people, you just want to keep giving more, because you realize that people are seeing themselves in a beautiful light.
And speaking of doing enough, do you feel like you have done enough to pass this on to someone else for the future of the Chicano movement for the next 50 or so years, or however long?
I don't think we're ever done doing the work. The work, I think, comes every day, and it's a way of life. It's not just, you know, I'm going to measure this much and do that much and that's enough. For me, I feel really blessed to be able to live this life the way that I do, be able to paint, be able to contribute the way that I do, and whether it's in the artwork or whether it's empowering other women to do what they need to do, or sharing space, you know, with other people, whatever that looks like, I think that that's the important work. And I think that's work that you can't measure. You can't say, oh, I'm done. You know, you've got to keep going until you can't anymore.
And I really like that quote. Well, I mean, it's your quote, but I really like what you said. And I wanted to ask, is there anything that drives you besides doing work for the Chicano community and helping? For not specifically your art, but for all the community work you do here for the park, for your beautiful shop, Aztlan Libre? What drives you for that?
I think my drive comes in carving out these spaces where we can celebrate ourselves. And then seeing that grow and seeing other people want to contribute to that, whether it's here in this gallery or whether it's at the park or whether it's a rally or maybe it's an event like Dia de Muertos, things like that allow us to celebrate who we are. That's the real drive, seeing that kind of unity and being able to see people be inspired or empowered by that kind of unity. When we come together like that and we see how much we can accomplish together and that we're all on the same page, that's a beautiful feeling. And you can't buy that, you can't measure it. It's just a feeling of, having a conversation with someone or creating an event that is successful because tons of people showed up because they're interested. It's creating those pieces that I think are really the drive, the fire to just keep going.
And I really like that as well. And for the 52-year anniversary, if I'm correct, the 52-year anniversary of the park, how does it feel to work with all these different artists to bring something that hasn't really happened well, I'm not saying that there's going to be a Chicano Park Day like a live event, but since we are having virtual week, what does it feel like to be working with all these different people that you have been working with I'm not sure how long, but for the past few years or months?
Well, I mean, I think it's an honor to work with all of the elders in the Chicano Park Steering Committee and all of the people, really, whether they're elders or not, who are contributing to the park and who are giving up, part of their lives, their time, their skill set, sometimes whatever their contribution is, to be able to work with them in unity towards the same goal is really a beautiful feeling. It's like it's having a big family. It's having a huge understanding of we're all headed in the same direction. And so, it's an honor. It's an honor to be in these spaces and to be trusted, to paint for the park, to speak, about the park, to share my own experience. It's really quite an honor.
And can you give me an example of something you worked on with someone or people around you in the community?
Well, several of the murals in the park that we worked on were done not just by myself, but by like a group of people. And there's all kinds of different artists that came out, and even people who had never painted before, or people who had never painted in the park. And that's a beautiful thing, because painting in the park is an honor. It's a privilege to be there, to be able to put any kind of stroke of paint on those walls. And I know that for me it's an honor, and to be able to share that with other people and have them have that feeling of we're celebrating who we are, and we're in Chicano Park doing that, that's the best reward.
How does it feel? Well, never mind that. But what was it like the first time you painted in the park and one of those murals? Because I know they're really sacred and it's a big privilege to paint there. I just wanted to know what it was like.
It was really surreal. I knew that it was an honor and a privilege to paint in the park, and as a Chicano artist, I identify as Chicana, obviously, but as a Chicano artist, it's really like it's the goal, I would think, to be able to paint in such a sacred space. I'm not one that's concerned about selling my artwork or trying to get to this like certain level of art. To me, it's enough that I've painted in the park and that I've contributed to that.
And I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I wanted to ask about the future of the park or the youth. And what do you see for the future of Chicano Park? I know it's a bit of a tricky question to answer, because there's a lot of things people see, a lot of things that people disagree with or agree with for the future of it. But I just wanted your perspective on it, because I've heard a lot of other things from a lot of people.
I think that for me, what's really important is the vibration that the park gives off. So the park is really a clear example of self-determination. And what I would hope is that more people discover the park and more Chicanos and Chicanas come forth and find that self-determination and liberation within themselves, because that's what the park is. And so to me, that's the important piece. And I think that if that continues to happen, the park will continue to be successful. And that is always going to be, I believe, in a way where there's always going to be a struggle. But it's up to us and what we do. And I think that as far as the youth and the future, I think that you guys are doing a great job. I think that there's a piece that I feel like it skipped a few generations. The generations of the takeover, the people who were there from day one had to fight. They had to be armed. They had to chain themselves to things. They had to go face to face, with the cops. And even though that's happened a few times in the history of these 52 years after the takeover, I feel like, I don't wish for that to continue to happen, but that really has happened in that first generation so much during that era. And now when I look at the youth, there's different ways to fight, the white supremacists, and there's different ways to fight for the park, and the struggle looks a little bit different, but all in all, it's still the same. I think that the youth is doing a great job, but showing up to the park and being there present is, I think, one of the most important pieces. I guess that's where I'm really heading, being there in person and getting to know your community and getting to know others that are working towards the same goal for the park. It's not all just social media,
No, because during protests during 2020, a lot of people, I'm not saying here, but a lot of people would show up to the protest and post about it on social media. They wouldn't really do anything about it. And they thought that they were making history, which is a segue into a lot of, what has the history been like for you? Because I know it goes into depth about a lot of things, but what inspired you about the history? Because I know there's certain aspects that inspire a lot of people. I know Cordy Gonzalez's speech was one of them, but what other aspects of the Chicano movement, not even about the 52 years of the park, going beyond that, what inspired you the most, if there's anything beyond
Well, I think, to me, the way that I look at the Chicano movement, the park is a huge part of that. And so I almost don't separate the two. They go hand in hand. There have been other struggles in other cities, in LA, in Denver, in Arizona, in a lot of different places. But what I see here with the park is it's home. It's home, and there's no reason why all of us can't know the full history of the park and can't get behind it and support it, and can't learn from it about self-determination and liberation. So I think that the park is as much as it's a sacred space that's been taken back, it's also a space to educate. And I don't separate that, because the park is also in so many Chicano movement history books, and so there's no separation.
Yeah, I feel like the park is a big part of, well, of course it is, but it's a really big part of the history. It's probably the main idea of it, the theme of it. But I just wanted to ask you, what does it feel like to be making history now with all your artwork and this shop and all the other things that you've done for the community?
I don't know that I realize that we're making history. I think that what we're doing is just trying to do the right thing, and always be on the right side of history, like Jesse Constancio says. And so I don't really look at it that way. I think that when we get caught up in I'm doing this so that I can be down in history, when we get caught up in that can become something that can weaken us, because it's our ego. And so, to me, it's like I'm not worried about those pieces. I am worried much more about where I'm contributing and where I'm not. And so, you know, I'm more worried about teaching the youth and being able to show the youth that, you know, that being a Chicana and a Chicano is an empowering thing. I'm more worried about those pieces than thinking about, you know, history. But of course, I am very conscious of trying to do the right thing for the movement.
The history that we're making right now, it's going to set an example and a foundation for the future of the Chicano movement for Youth Brigade, because we do not know what's going to happen next. But I'm positive that you and a lot of other people, you guys are going to be the example of what to do and what not to do for the history of the park or for the future. And I think that's where I want to end it off. I don't have any more questions for you.
Thank you.
No problem. It was really nice interviewing you.
Thank you.